All right, we are officially live. Welcome to the stream. Obviously, you guys know who I am, the sophisticated man. Welcome back to the channel. Make sure you subscribe, like the video, all that fun YouTube stuff. Let me know where you're from too, what time it is. As you can see, I have a guest here, Mr. Matt Chenard. What's going on, man?
Tino, glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely, man. Absolutely. Glad to have you. And I think I've been trying to have a consistent guest on the show here every week. Matt is also a men's coach, which is essentially why we're going to talk about the topic that we have today for the video. But real quick, Matt, just kind of describe a little bit about who you are, what it is that you do, and why you do what you do.
Yeah, Matt Chenard. I'm from Canada, Alberta, Canada, just outside of Edmonton. And I've been in the fitness industry for well over 16 years. So I played hockey growing up. My two front teeth are fake. In case anyone's wondering, I played hockey and I'm from Canada. So yes, I'm missing teeth. And along the way, I started getting into fitness. So I became a personal trainer, opened up a gym. It's now in its ninth year. And then along the way, I started to notice there needs to be a more holistic approach to fitness, someone's health and wellness.
Hmm.
So my mindset is mental, physical, spiritual, relational, and purpose. And going into the men's coaching, that's what I really focus on with men is helping them unlock daily purpose so they can achieve excellence relationally, professionally, and physically. Right? It's that purpose aspect that we really need to tap into in order to help someone reach their goals, anchoring them to something bigger than themselves. So that's what I help men with is finding more purpose and the byproduct of that being success in all these different areas of the life.
Mm. I love that. I love that. And that's one of the reasons I reached out was because we definitely have very similar missions. I think we have a similar message with how we want to help men.
Mhm.
And purpose is a huge thing. It's definitely something I was talking heavily on my last live stream with my previous guest is like men finding their purpose, being involved with their purpose. And since that's kind of tied to the title of the video today, like what it means to be alpha in 2022. What is the connection, do you think, between men being their purpose and being, alpha or quote unquote like the strongest version of themselves?
Yeah, it's a really good question. So I help men with an identity shift too. And when
Mm,
we think of alpha, I think we mirror what we see in social media, news, or whatever else to be alpha, which
for
in the
sure.
mind is super jacked, super rich, lots of lady friends, all these fancy things, um, almost arrogant and egotistical.
Hmm.
When that's not the case, right? If you think of an actual alpha in a wolf pack, right? They're servant, like they're servant hearted in the way they lead. They're confident in who they are, right? So helping men root themselves in a deeper purpose and an identity that is outside of their external circumstances enables them to show up as their authentic self, and their authentic self being what are they gifted at, what insight do they have, how can they serve and impact other people. So in my mind, that's what an alpha is. It's a true version of themselves, and that enables them to steward everything they've been given to impact the world around them daily and then leave a lasting legacy down the road.
Mm. Yeah, I would echo those sentiments 100%. I think that the more that I mature and the more that I grow here, me and the word alpha have a very interesting relationship. I think at one point I was kind of in that boat of like, well, this is what it means because I saw it on TV or because I saw a
Right.
movie portraying what I thought was an alpha male, which is like how you were describing before, guys who are maybe a little arrogant, a little loud, boisterous, a little macho type of dude. But I think truly that now being an alpha is just being the most authentic, genuine person that you can be, like being your best self, like your best self, not who I am or not who Matt is, but your authentic
Mhm.
self, whatever that means to you. And I think
Yeah.
that truly comes back to what I believe masculinity is all about, which is about being a builder, being creative, like having something that you're trying to work on, having that mission in mind. And your mission is unique to yourself based on your own past experiences, your strengths, your motivations, your fears, all these things kind of come into play. Um, so I wanted to ask you too, because I think that's something where a lot of guys get confused is they have an idea, I think, of what being an alpha means. Where do you think that comes from? Like where do you feel like guys get that stereotype of what it really means to be alpha?
Probably a lot of media. I mean, just watching
Yeah.
movies and shows and whatever else, right? It's this because I was hesitant to call my coaching program True Alpha or
Mm,
Alpha, have alpha in it because there's a stigma around it, right? As
right.
soon as you say something like that, you have this image of a Matt's trying to help men become just jacked or whatever else I had listed prior.
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, it's the true version of themselves.
Mm,
So that's why I put true in front of it. What is a true alpha? How do you tap into that true alpha? And how you do that is becoming more curious about yourself and how you've been designed and what you've been given to steward. And that's the journey, like you said, Tino, is finding your mission, finding your vision, developing your core values. And then instead of thinking what we see, like going back to your question, is why that happens, instead of thinking it's the external byproduct of a person that gives them the fulfillment and meaning, because that's what we view, right? We see everyone has these nice cars, they have these successful businesses. So we think,
mm,
or we've been led to believe that's what gives meaning, purpose, and value. No, it's about who you are in what you do and not what you do defining who you are. So
mm-hmm.
striving to help people do that and live into that truth.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. I think it's a mentor of mine actually would say that. He's like, it's not so much about what you do, it's who you are when you're doing it, because
Mhm.
that truly makes up the intention. Like everything is about your intention, right? And I think a lot of guys, and the ironic thing is when they look at examples of masculinity or just examples of being alpha or whatever on TV or through media, they do it from the lens of, well, could I get this person's approval if I start
Mhm.
acting this way?
Right.
Or will I be accepted by this group of people if I start doing this? So, in a way, it's almost approval seeking type of behavior to try to be alpha just because that's how you think other people will accept you. So,
Yeah.
what are your thoughts on that?
I agreed. Yeah. Instead of chasing approval
Mm,
in other people's eyes, chased impact with who
mm,
you are. And
mm,
because as soon as you start chasing approval, you're going to be ever changing. You have to be inconsistent in character if you're chasing approval from the external world, because what is found to be praised today will not be praised tomorrow or next week. So that means
mm,
that if you're seeking this meaning and fulfillment and value from the external world around you, you have to mimic that by being inconsistent in character. So instead,
mm,
a steadfast alpha is someone who is consistent in who they are, regardless of their external circumstances. And that's really tough. And that's hard to be a leader, right? It's hard to
mm,
be a leader when you're planting yourself in truth instead of in instead of planting yourself in that approval and identity in other people's eyes.
mm. Yeah, because it was hard for me at one point to separate myself from that. I think maybe all of us have that journey of trying to get away from the approval of others, what people would think about what we're doing, judgments of others. I mean, there was a point when I delayed my YouTube channel and my brand for about a year and a half because I was afraid to speak about the masculine philosophies and ideas of manhood. I was just like, no one wants to hear that, or people would think I'm crazy or just like judge me in a certain way. So I put that off because of my fear of other people and what they thought about me. So one of the things that I try to promote here on the channel too is like when you're just self-actualized, and not even to that degree, but just when you're just so self validated and you know what you're pursuing, you have that focus on your goals, yourself, your vision, your values, like we were talking about, you kind of just tune out the noise, and you just become so much more like locked in to what it is you're doing, because everything about masculine energy and masculinity is about having that mission. So when you have that like self-defined mission, then opinions of others, like, you can hear them, but they're not really going to affect you as much as if you just had no idea what you're doing or why you're doing it.
Yeah. And you talk about having that mission that you're tapped into so that the
Hmm.
external world doesn't cause you friction in the things you want to pursue. It's the same thing when I was mentioning at the start of this live video is tapping yourself into something bigger than yourself, a purpose that,
Yeah.
so let's say I help I help men physically, right? I'm a trainer. I can help people lose weight, gain muscle, get the physique they want.
Hmm.
But if it's not tapped into something that's bigger than just looking good,
Right.
when you're met with this external friction, or maybe even like you're saying, Tino, if someone makes fun of you for going to the gym often, you're going to quit,
Yep.
right? Because you're chasing something that was surface level. And that's why it's so important. And I was saying at the start is rooting yourself into something bigger, right? Something
Mm.
deeper than just getting a better body. Maybe it's that you actually want to help people and serve people with your body, or go on these adventures or whatever else meet. Because then once you tap into those deeper purposes, you enable yourself to have success in whatever you pursue, because you know you're committed to the process, because it's a bigger deal than just the achievement itself.
Hmm. Yeah, you're being led by something that is, like you're saying, just bigger than yourself. And I find like you usually give up on yourself a lot quicker than you give up on other, not even other people, but just a grander vision or a bigger
Mhm.
purpose. So it is super, super important for guys to have a why, have a reason for what they're
Yep.
doing, know what their reasons are, know what their intentions are. But it's definitely not an easy process by any means. I think for me, I mean, it took a long time for me to get really grounded in that purpose, and really understand what it was that I wanted to achieve, and why it was so important for me. So, what would you say guys can do to maybe start taking steps to figure out what it is their why, or their intentions behind something that they want to do that's bigger than them?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think I see purpose in a lot of different ways. I think there's a macro purpose. So we don't
Mhm.
truly know our whole purpose while we're here on earth. Um, so not getting super overwhelmed
Yeah.
or burdened by that, because you're not going to know, hey, this is exactly what you should do for the rest of your life, and this is what it's going to look like. That's not the case. It's about creating those micro purposes in your pursuits, and the
Mhm.
macro or the identity in that is important. So instead of thinking about what do I need to do, what do I need to accomplish, say who do I want to be and what do I accomplish first, and who am
Mhm.
I? So you start asking yourself, what am I good at? How can I add value to others? That's what everything is, right? It's an exchange of value. So what am I inherently naturally good at that I can add value in other people's lives? Nurture this gift so that then whatever you pursue, if it has a deeper meaning other than just the achievement itself, you'll be successful in it. And that's how you start to tap in to these different purposes. So anytime I create a new business or I do a new investment, even for our family, right? It's having a bigger mission. So the mission for our family is to exemplify our faith and love and care for others around us. So that's bigger than just saying one task each day. That's an overarching
Mhm.
theme. So use an overarching theme for who you want to be,
Mm.
and then use these more measurable missions for how you want to achieve it. Because the why is way more important than the how, and the why will get you much further than the how. Because once you have the why, it's easy to say, who do I need to talk to? What do I need to do? And it'll just kind of lay itself in front of you.
Mhm. No, that's very well said. I think I said the same thing in my videos too. When the what isn't as important as the why, because the what,
Yep.
or the why, almost helps you figure out the what in a lot of cases. It kind of gives you that roadmap. So I know that what we're talking about now is focused on purpose and mission and having something grand beyond yourself. I find today, and I'd love to get your opinion on this, that a lot of men today in this society typically go through activities that are very short-term, pleasure-seeking, self-serving type of things, and the things that we're talking about are are very much beyond that. Like, you're serving
Yep.
others, you have a deeper meaning behind it. It's not instant gratification, it's long-term delayed
Yep.
gratification. So, completely different side of the spectrum, and I'm wondering, in your opinion, what do you think, um, what do you think started that, first of all?
I smirk because I was literally just writing down instant gratification as you said it. So
Yeah.
it it
Yeah.
is this, like, we have access to a lot of different things that we can enjoy here, like good food,
Yeah.
good conversation, vacations, whatever else might be. But once we start pursuing these things at the sacrifice of who we are, or even more so
Mhm.
if you don't know who you are, you're going to be
Mhm.
left day to day searching and striving for instant gratification to feel something.
Mhm.
And that could be, hey, I want to win the lottery, or I want to be really jacked and fit so people adore me, or I want to be successful, or I want to have successful business. I need to go on vacations or have adventures really often because I'm trying to fill this void.
Mm.
Instead, there needs to be a switch, a mindset shift in pursuing things of legacy and purpose, because that will give the longer lasting meaning and fulfillment that everyone's searching for. Because it's when you start to chase things like these instant gratifications or these pleasures, you're going to get on this hamster wheel, because
Mhm.
how much money is enough money? How jacked is jacked enough? How
Mhm.
happy does your relationship have to be before you're happy? So then it comes down to that purpose aspect is casting something that's going to, in the future, that's going to take you a long time to get there, that you have to collaborate. You have to learn how to serve people. You have to learn how to impact people and give value into the world, instead of saying, what can I extract from the world in reference to the simple pleasure or these pleasures that are momentary, and you just keep doing that day after day after day. And that's the hamster wheel men are caught on, because
Mhm.
they're searching for something deeper that they're not going to find in instant gratification.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely have had experiences like that in my past, and I mean sometimes even today, where I find myself falling into those instant gratification, those activities that spike dopamine, that
Yep.
make me feel all these feel good feelings temporarily. But like, the ironic thing is, and I just made a video about this, it's like the more that you seek that pleasure, and the more that you try to enjoy these short term satisfying things, you don't really feel good about yourself. You actually feel worse. You
Mhm.
feel emptier. You feel more hollow. You feel just way less grounded as a man. And
Yep.
you wouldn't think that going into it. It's like, oh, well, there's nothing wrong if I just eat this entire bag of potato chips. Like, it feels good in the moment, but when you're done, you just feel like, "Well, what the hell did I just do?" Like,
Yeah.
I didn't get anywhere. I just, like, made myself I distracted myself temporarily. And that's what I think is the key of, getting into delayed gratification, because
Yep.
distractions, are part of the instant gratification, because 'cause they're simply just a quick little, "Okay, let me look over here," or, "Let me do this," instead of actually putting their focus into something longer and deeper to net them better results. So, what do you feel is, or I guess, like, what would you define as more of a delayed gratification activity as opposed to instant gratification?
Yeah. So I have a picture. I love mountains, and there's a picture behind me there. I often think about how awesome it is when you're on top of the mountain, you're looking over the mountain range or the view,
Mm,
and how great that moment is.
mhm,
And you could very well hire, it'd be expensive, but you could hire a helicopter, right? And go to all these different peaks and just take all these viewpoints in. But it wouldn't be as sweet and as pleasurable as if when you climb the mountain, right? You
Yeah.
go through these struggles, you go through these difficulties. So that's why I sometimes say on some of my videos, it's you got to earn your dopamine, right?
Mm, I
Dopamine
love
is
that.
so accessible, right? You turn on the TV, you turn on social media. Every time you swipe through something, you're completing a task, which gives you dopamine. But before, it took a lot of energy and effort to acquire things, right? And we would gain this dopamine from acquiring these things. So now it's, hey, I could very well hire a helicopter to go to the top of the mountain and see it.
Hmm.
But it's actually the journey of maybe taking some wrong trails, of sweating, of not wanting
Sure.
to go to the top because it's so difficult, that makes it more memorable.
Mm,
And that's the thing, is understanding we need to struggle a little bit to actually make that dopamine more meaningful.
mm. I love that analogy, and shout out to Outlier. He was a guest I had on a previous podcast. He said also another really good analogy. I would agree with that because I think people get so confused. Men in particular get so focused on the outcome, so
Mhm.
focused on the result that they forget that the process is actually the thing that they're yearning for. Because
Yep.
that right there is going to turn them into the kind of man they need to be to even achieve that kind of result that they really want. Like if starting a business, for example, yes, having the money, having the success, having the impact is going to be satisfying. But the process of learning about your weaknesses, learning about what you have to do to fix your marketing, your sales, your content, like whatever it is, that process of going through the trials, the tribulations, that's where the growth really happens. And
Mhm.
that only happens through being uncomfortable and being in situations where you just don't really know what you're going to do. Like I literally just made a video about this. It's funny that we're talking about it, but I honestly feel that true certainty and confidence is built through uncertainty. Like you
Yep.
can't there's no easy way around it, like you're saying.
No, exactly. And you think about anything that's been invented or found,
Yeah.
it wasn't known before, right? There has to be digging, there has to be struggle, there has to be going into the unknown to find something that you don't even know is there, right? But now there's things that we take advantage of that are just commonplace for us that weren't there before, but that took someone going out of their comfort zone. And you can think of that in your own little ecosystem as a person, is there's things that are possible, whether it's building a business, whether it's having a strong, capable body, or having a strong marriage, or whatever else it might be. But you have to expand your comfort zone. You have to get outside of that and continue to grow that. And that doesn't stop. So the people that are trying to chase these targets of the definition of success, thinking they're going to be done, right?
Mhm.
That's why I think retirement is not a good thing. We're not made to
Yeah.
just retire. We're made to give value to the world every moment we're here. And that's what sustains you, right?
Mhm. I agree 100%. I think that like the pursuit of always trying to get better. I mean, you look at like some of the most successful people in the world, some of the most successful athletes that I've ever seen. Like, for example, Kobe Bryant, rest in peace. The dude was a legend, and
Mhm.
even at his peak, he would literally be in the gym shoot up he'd throw up 1,000 shots every single day, but it's like he was a world champion. He was one of the greatest basketball players at the time. Why was he still going so hard? And because it's his mindset. He's like, in my mind, I'm not even viewing
Yep.
myself as, oh, the greatest, this and that. He's like, I still got work to do. I still got things to learn. Because if I feel like if you ever settle for that, just that moment of like, well, I achieved everything, I learned it all, I did everything, there's nothing else to do. I mean, you're basically walking yourself into an early grave. I mean, what else is there to do besides like, if you're not growing, we're dying. So I would
Yep.
agree. Like you almost have to um keep yourself motivated in some way. Keep yourself pursuing some type of excellence or purpose. And I think this ties perfectly into the purpose is what we're talking about. I feel like over time, your purpose does evolve and it does change as you change as a man. Because at one point, like you were talking about micro purposes. My purpose at one point was just to get good grades in school and
Mhm.
pass with a good GPA and get a diploma, get a
Yep.
bachelor's degree. That was like a micro purpose, but that was like my main focus at the time. And then after that, that evolved into, okay, well, now I have to figure out what I want to do, get into coaching, start my own business, start to get some clients, and now the purpose has taken shape. So I maybe touch on that for a second is of how purposes and your mission and your goals, how they naturally kind of evolve over time as you grow.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I think if we're talking about purpose in being who you are and what you do and not what you do, defining who you are,
Yeah.
I think that's why it's so critical that people, men, figure out who they are. Because
Hmm.
let's say we take the analogy of a professional athlete, of someone who, because I played competitive sports growing up, competitive hockey. What happens if someone puts their whole identity and their whole purpose into the pursuit instead of who they are and growing who they are in the pursuit? What
Hmm.
happens when you lose that? What happens when you get an injury? What happens if you don't make it to the top level? And that's where a lot of depression, anxiety, substance abuse comes from, because they had their identity wrapped up around this thing that could be gone tomorrow.
Hmm.
So instead of thinking about what you do being who you are, think about everything you do being a platform. So
Mm.
who I am can be moved to different platforms. Who I was in hockey, if I've learned and had that mindset of growth, can be taken over into my business life, into my married life, into all these different things I'm going to pursue. Like you said, these different purposes or milestones or missions. I think the purpose of who you are and your identity in those won't change, but what you pursue with who you are will.
Mm. You bring up a very good point because I know that a lot of athletes go through this, particularly like football players. Because I follow the NFL. I follow people's careers pretty closely. I'm just a fan of football, and I've seen a lot of football players that retired from the NFL or professional sports, and then afterwards they hit a depression for a while
Yep.
because their entire lives, all they've ever known was, "Hey, I'm a football player. I get paid to play football. That's my thing. That's my life." And once it stops, they're kind of at a crossroads because, like, well, my identity was always this. Now it's something new. I have no idea who I am anymore. So that is definitely something that I notice. And it's not just athletes, but happens to a lot of guys. Maybe they've been, for example, maybe you've been working a 9 to 5 for a very, very long time, and just out of nowhere, you get laid off and you have to figure out, what am I going to do now? Am I going to start a business? Am I going to find another job? Am I going to get, you know, uh, who knows, unemployment? What's going to happen? So there's just so much that can happen in that moment. So it's important, I think, to be flexible and
Yep.
to be able to adapt and to be able to pivot at certain points of your life, because it's not always going to be exactly the way that it is right now, and then that's kind of just the way life works. Being able to be calm in the eye of the storm, essentially, is what I'm saying, and being able to just be grounded for what happens. And it's definitely not an easy process. I think a lot of men in that situation, they instead of running into the burning building, they run away from it.
Yep. Yep. Yeah. Continually trying to find meaning and purpose in something else. And
Yeah.
one of my favorite quotes or ideas, not quotes, it's a word like vapor. So
Hmm.
Ecclesiastes, it talks about vapor, that everything we have now is going to be gone, right? Our
Yeah.
life, our relationships, our things. So once we understand that, it can be like depressing to think about, but it should be encouraging to know that we're simply stewards of everything we have,
Yeah.
right? So if you're a professional athlete, you're stewarding this platform, and hopefully you've worked on yourself so that you're making an impact instead of just saying that's where your value comes from. Because what happens then when you
Hmm.
achieve the championship, right? Like any kind of championship, any kind of anytime you win, if you define your identity as a person based on if you fail or succeed, then you're going to be so thrown around by the world. But once you know that everything is vapor, everything's going to disappear,
Mhm.
it enables you to truly be grateful and, yeah, truly be grateful for everything you have and then fully utilize it to the fullest instead of trying to get more. Leverage everything you have to the fullest.
Mm. Yeah, and it just comes back to, like you said, being grateful of what you have in the moment, and not always looking to the next thing, kind of just being content, but also being hungry for more at the same
Yep.
time, kind of finding that balance. It's all really a delicate balance. Um, I don't know if you follow Alex Hormozy at all, but he had made a post, I think it was 2 days ago on Instagram, where he pretty much said exactly what we're describing. He said, "People that you know right now, in 3 generations, they're all going to be gone." And I was like, "Whoa." Kinda just, like, woke me up for a second. I was like, "Damn, I didn't really think about it like that," but that's so true. Like, all the memories that you shared, all the people that we've talked to, all the ideas that we've had, and anything that was going on at that time is gonna completely change over a course of time. And it just really puts things into perspective, and, makes the idea of purpose, mission, and legacy, as you were speaking of earlier, even more important, because you almost want something that you're doing, especially as men, whatever we're creating right now, whether it's a business, a brand, uh, a family, whatever we're making, we almost want things to transcend ourselves and transcend our own lifetime. Because that's, to me, that's real impact. Like that's deep influence in culture, society, whatever. When your words, your message outlast your own lifetime, I mean, I think you're doing the right something right there.
Yeah. And if you think about what's going to last the longest, it's
Yeah.
not how much money I make. It's not, again, what my body looks like. It's not how successful my businesses were.
Yep.
It's extracting these truths that have been here since the beginning, right? Whether it's
Yep.
integrity, whether it's um, being truthful, whether it's being kind, whether it's being purpose driven, all these different values and principles, you can extract them. And then, like you said, instill them in people around you. That's the goal, is
Hmm.
helping people see these truths that are around them that they can't see, because every successful person, meaning success being positively impacting people around them,
Hmm.
have understood these truths and they've just implemented it day after day and stayed consistent with those instead of being thrown around by what the world's telling them they need to pursue or what they need to do or why they should pursue. Like you said, Tino, is why you in your head, you're like, well, people are going to make fun of me if I start this. People are going to say it's not good, or people already know this stuff. It's not true, right?
Hmm.
Those are lies in our head. And we need to extract these truths, and those last way longer than we do.
Hmm. Yeah, I mean, there's no secret that a lot of these successful people generally say the same things on how they become successful.
Yeah.
It's all very similar. Like they talk about hardships, being uncomfortable, trying new things, stretching themselves, serving others. I mean, there's a lot of resonance with the things that they say, and it's in every industry. It's not just one, or oh well, this person's just successful in this industry. That's kind of universal. There's a lot of universal truths that make a person successful, and the proof is in what they do. I
Mhm.
think one of my favorite quotes is "Success leaves clues," and like you just
Yeah.
follow people that have done a lot of different things in life. Just follow their journey and like follow their mistakes, because guaranteed there's someone else out there that has made a mistake that you
Yep.
probably are making right now. So just learn from them, and that's another interesting point to bring up, because I don't think a lot of men take this as seriously as they need to, of like finding mentors, finding guidance, finding coaches, even guys like us. How important is that in your opinion, just through your own experience and just what you've noticed, for men to find that mentor, someone above them to kind of show them the way?
Extremely, extremely important. if not only to uncover truth, but also to have insight in things that you can't see in your own life and
Mhm.
to give loving truth, right? And I think because we tend to surround ourselves with people who are agreeable with
Yep.
us or that just lift us up and maybe in not a truthful way, right? We just want the support system. We don't want people to tell us, hey, Matt, you're not being very kind, or you're not doing this right, or I don't think this is a good idea. Or we
Mhm.
kind of shy away from that type of thing when in reality, that's what we should be leaning into is continually finding coaches, mentors, circles, masterminds of people that can be truthful with us. Because that's
Mhm.
the only way we're going to grow. Because you need to grow into the person that can handle more success or more money or whatever else it might be instead of saying, I want to acquire these things. So, what's the
Mhm.
best way to grow into that person? It's to surround yourself with people who've done it. It's to
Mhm.
surround yourself with people who aren't just there to pat you on the back, but can also give you loving tips on how to grow.
Mhm.
And so I think that is so, so important. And all these books behind me, like I've probably read 5% of them. And you start to realize for me, it's because, oh, they're saying the same thing, just in a different language, right?
Mhm.
They're talking about principles, truths, they're using methods, tactics, whatever else might be. But you need to surround yourself with people that can extract those things and apply it to your life, right? Has
Mhm.
different vantage points than you.
Yeah, I agree 100%. Books are an amazing resource.
Mm.
Videos are great too on YouTube. I know that obviously the space that we're in, content creators, different coaches online, they offer great guidance, but it's a different level when you have somebody one-on-one with you giving you like specific feedback of, hey, what you're doing right now isn't working, or this is probably a better way to do it, kind of giving you that objective feedback, which is super, super important for growth, especially in men's development. Like we need that hard truth. Sometimes we need that tough love. Um, because the worst thing you can do is be in a group of people that are just yes men, and they just tell you what you want to hear,
Yeah.
what sounds comfortable. Hey, dude, just yeah, it's not a problem. Just keep doing what you're doing. Like that's fine. And when reality is they're not doing something that's productive, and they're not doing something that's benefiting their growth, and
Damaging even.
they're yeah, they could very well be damaging themselves. And there's just people that they just wanna be in your presence. They don't actually care about you. They just care
Mhm.
about what you're giving them. So that's very, very, it's to your benefit to be aware of who you allow into your circle. That's why I don't really keep a lot of friends. I know a lot of people, I have a lot of, connections, but if I'm talking inner circle, like people that are very, very close to me, it's not that big. And
Mhm.
it's not because I don't trust people. Well, there's a lot of people I don't trust, but the point is I don't allow just anyone in. Like you have to really show me you're a person that values the same things that I value, and you're willing to give me that tough love, because sometimes people can't take it.
Mhm.
I've had to tell people certain things and certain truths that I have. I'm like, yo, I think what you're doing is good, and they can't handle it. So it's like, okay,
Mhm.
well, maybe we can't be as close of friends that you think, which isn't a bad thing, but you just have to realize that, yeah, you just have to realize who's in your corner, because it's like the saying goes, the 5 people you surround yourself with, it's very true.
Yeah. Yeah. The average of 5 for sure. And I
Mhm.
think you should grow into the type of leader and person that can positively impact those people who aren't in the same journey as you are, right? That maybe helps them see the world in a different light too, right? And I think that goes back to this identity shift and saying you shouldn't be afraid to be around people that are negative or aren't going the same direction as you. You should be so confident in who you are that you're not nervous, that you're more confident in how you can impact them than how they're going to influence you.
Mm, yeah, I would agree, because that's leadership, is when you
Yep.
you don't really care what is happening around you. You're still moving forward because you know what you're doing. And
Yeah.
what's so funny about that is when you're really embodying that and you're moving forward with, hey, I'm going to go to the gym at this time, I'm going to wake up at this time, I have to read at this time, I got this and this to do. You're following your own schedule. People kind of naturally follow you. Like, you don't have to tell them, you don't have to force them. And something I'm definitely learning about leadership, and I'd love to get your take on it, is like when you're really a leader and leadership is in its highest form, it doesn't even feel like you're leading. You're kind of just you're just doing the work yourself. You're going first. People just naturally fall behind and want to do what you're doing because they see, whoa, Tino's doing the work. I love what he's doing. I'm inspired by him. And they just naturally kind of follow you. So yeah, what's your take on that? Because I know that leadership and talking about masculinity and all, it's very, very connected to that. So
Mhm.
what would be your perspective on that?
Yeah, I think good leaders invite people in to the
Yeah,
journey instead of
yeah,
just thinking that it's about me and seeing
mhm,
what people, or having people see that you're successful, just doing it to be seen as the success instead of inviting people in and becoming curious of who they are.
mm,
Because if I'm gifted at, let's say I'm a gifted visionary, I know that I'm not gifted at administrative type stuff. I can do
right,
it, but being a good leader understands that there are people who are gifted at that and enjoy doing that, and inviting them into this mission, this
mhm,
platform with you to move forward. And then as that is happening, being a good leader is helping someone understand themselves better by
yep,
asking curious questions while also simultaneously understanding them better. So you know how to motivate them better, you know how to support them better, you know how to help them grow better. So being a good leader is way deeper than just, if we're talking about a business, barking out orders or telling people they need to meet deadlines. It's about actually taking the time, knowing it's going to take years to help the person develop into a person that's going to be there for the long run. And I think that's why people struggle maintaining teammates in anything they do, is because they haven't shown them the purpose of what they're doing. They haven't showed them how they're having a positive impact on the purpose with who they are. And they haven't shown the genuine curiosity of the person just to be more curious and not to get anything out of them.
mhm. And I think that's the part that most men don't understand about being a leader. It's like you're not driven by your ego. You're not just saying, "Well, I'm your boss. You need to listen to me. Like I'm in charge of you." That's not being a leader. That's being like a tyrant. You're
Yep.
being a dictator, basically.
Yep.
Leadership is not driven by your ego. It's driven by something deeper than that. It's the purpose. It's the mission. It's the goal. The journey. You're not so concerned with having to control people. You're more concerned with controlling yourself and
Mhm.
finding how people fit into the system. Like I'll bring it back to a sports analogy. The best football coaches, they pick players that fit into the system, and they create a system around their players' strengths. They don't just say, "Well, this is the game plan I want to run. You're gonna
Yep.
discard what you're good at just to fit into my game plan. Then we're gonna make it work." Usually, when you see that, players don't do well. Teams don't perform well because like they're not playing to their strengths. But a good coach would take that same situation, say, okay, what is this person good at? What is this
Mhm.
player good at? Let's create a system based on their their strengths, not their deficiencies. And that's a good coach. That's a good leader because they're working with their their group, who's
Mhm.
following them, their tribe essentially. So super, super important. I think ego gets in the way a lot of times when it comes to leadership.
Oh, 100%. Right. You want to be seen as the leader and not understanding that leadership is really hard.
Yeah,
Leadership is basically sharing the credit, sharing the
yeah.
achievement. And you're not going to be really celebrated as much as you probably want, because it's
Mhm.
about the team, it's about the whole. And if we're using sports analogies, you're going to have superstars that will make a bigger impact and they will be seen as a significant player on that team. But there's
Mhm.
also people that you don't hear as much about
Yep.
that are probably way better leaders and who support and enable that person to succeed in the role. So I think, yeah, it is this sense of humility. Good leaders are humble, and that's
Mhm.
not weak, right? There's meekness isn't weakness. Meekness is understanding your strengths and utilizing them the fullest, not downplaying them, but also understanding your weaknesses and putting people in positions that you're weak and lifting them up and celebrating them. Because celebrating someone else doesn't make you weak,
Mhm.
right? It doesn't make you any less. It just, that's a good leader.
Mhm. Right, and it comes back to the old, stereotype of, these typical alpha males that just, like, beat their chest and kinda, like, they put other people down because they think, "Oh, well, I'm gonna feel better about myself by making this guy feel less
Yeah.
than," or being, the "bully," quote, unquote, and that they think that that's being, like, a strong dude, an alpha male, but it really is just satisfying ego at that point because
Mm-hmm.
you're so insecure about your own manhood and who you are that you think that you have to tear this other person down to make you somehow feel elevated. And that's just the complete opposite. Like I've always seen guys like that growing up where, high school, college, whatever, where he was like the jock or not even a jock, but just the guy who was like super cocky, super arrogant, and just would go around being the loudest guy in the room. And he would do that just to be the showman, just to be like, "Hey,
Mm-hmm.
look at me. Like, look at me. It's all about me." And I just always looked at guys like that and been like, that's so lame. Like it's like that's so weak to me. I never looked at them like, "Oh yeah, he's a guy I can look up to." Um I've always thought that was just corny and just like kind of lame. So that's huge is like not putting the spotlight on yourself but putting it on others because that's something I saw from channel Charisma on Command. That was something that Charlie was talking about. He said like good leaders and just good people that communicate, people that know how to communicate with others, they don't always put the spotlight on themselves.
Yep.
They shine it on others. They ask good questions. They get people to talk more about themselves. Back to the reading that was from the book How to Win Friends and Influence People. You get people to talk about themselves, then they become invested in you because they're like, wow, this person actually cares and they
Mm-hmm.
actually, they want to listen to me, which again I think are all great proponents of good leadership.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you're talking there, I thought of like you're talking about ego, and I
Mm,
think it's loud outer strength, or what people view as loud outer strength, comes from inner weakness,
mm,
right? This inner self that is weak and scared and doesn't want anyone to see in there. But
true.
true leaders, that inner quiet strength, people start to see that over time because they're not outwardly needing to be anything else. They don't have to put
Mm,
anyone down because they're confident in who they are, which means that they're not loud, they're not putting other people down, they're not shielding themselves in this bubble or in this saran wrap of significance of achievements or value or whatever else it might be.
hmm Yeah, 100%. I always thought that too. Like outward, just if you're always loud, there's something that you're covering up or something you don't want people to see. And and I don't want people to get confused when I say that. I'm not saying that like you can't be an outgoing kind of person. Like
Right.
there's different personalities. Like you could be more extroverted, you could be more introverted. It doesn't really matter. But again, it comes back, I believe, to the intention. Are you
Mhm.
being loud just because you want people to notice you, or
Right.
because you want to be the center of attention? You want people to feel like you're a cool person. I have friends that are loud. They're like more outgoing, and you could say they're loud, but that's just his personality. That's just who he
Right.
is.
Yep.
He's not doing it because, oh yeah, like I want people to like me, this and that. Like that's just who he is at his core. And and I think this kind of ties perfectly full circle into what we were saying before of like just being authentic and
Mhm.
just knowing who it is that you are and expressing that to the world regardless of what they're going to think. Like if you're the kind of person who's more introverted, but you can definitely start a conversation with somebody, you know how to talk one on one, like play to your strengths.
Yep.
There's nothing wrong with that. Now, I'm not saying that you have to be in the corner by yourself, never talking to anybody. That's kind of being a little timid. You can still be, because I'm naturally more introverted, but I know how to go out of my way and start a conversation, like talk one on one and just start to be more interesting to people
Yep.
because I play to my strengths. I know that I'm better on one. Group is a little intimidating, but even that, even talking in a group setting, I'm learning to deal with it, learning to become better because I just know who I am. And I think it all comes back to that is like just being authentic to who you are and not having to put on a persona or some type of mask to try to be someone that you're really not.
Yeah. Arrogance is much different than confidence,
Yeah.
right? It's fake. It's
Hmm.
being cocky is fake. It's trying to get something out of other people or trying to find something out in people that you're not going to find in them. Or you might find it for a moment, right? You might find the significance for a moment, but being confident in who you are will make a way bigger difference in the long run.
Hmm. I agree 100%. Confidence is authentic.
Mhm.
It's real. It's not having to prove anything. It's not insecure. It's just confidence just comes from knowing, who you are and having a positive self-image, having a good self-esteem, having positive ideas about yourself and running with it. Like if I'll give one last analogy because I think we've had so many analogies in this stream,
I'm a big
but
fan of analogies.
I love them. I love metaphors and all that. Um, but like again, like if you're riding a bike, I'd be cocky if I never rode a bike before. I was like, yeah, I'm a beast. I could pop
Right.
wheelies and I'm great at riding a bike. I'm awesome. Like that's being cocky because I know I never did it before, and I'm just putting on a front to make it seem like, yeah, I know what I'm doing, but I don't. If I was confident in riding a bike, I probably wouldn't say it that much. I'd just be like, "Yeah, I can ride a bike," and just, like, show you that I can ride a bike. I wouldn't just have to tell you all the time, "That's what I can do," and that's a really great point I wanna end it on, of speaking about it and talking about it, because I honestly believe that, like, if you're really an alpha male, if you're really that kinda guy, most likely you're not talking about it that much. You're not telling people, "Oh yeah, I'm an alpha male. I'm
Right.
I'm this, I'm that, I'm masculine. I'm this great leader." You don't have to say it. Like people just know that you are because you embody those characteristics.
Yep. And the characteristics being these truths that have been here, right? This
Yeah.
confidence is based in rooting yourself in something that you know to be true. Arrogance comes from, like you said in that analogy, that's not true. So you
Mhm.
have to really puff it up and you really have to play it up and be this character, put this mask on, have this persona instead of being confident and knowing that what you're rooting yourself in is consistent and won't change.
Mhm. I agree, man. I think the whole thing is consistency and being authentic to yourself and just being aware of what it is that you want out of life and knowing your
Yep.
motivations, knowing your desires and having that mission. Again, that's the thing I want you guys to take away from this is just having mission, having purpose and just being authentic and like no one else can give that to you. You have to give it to yourself because when
Yep.
it comes from inside, then you're that much more passionate about what you do. You feel like it's a stronger desire and I think to Matt's point, that's when it comes from a place that's just beyond ourselves.
Mhm. Yeah, I agree. That was a great place to, I
Yeah,
think, like you said, end it on. That's great. Thanks
yeah.
to
I think that was a great little segue to conclude it here. So, yeah, man, any last closing thoughts or anything else you wanted to add?
I I guess encouragement that it's possible, right? It's possible once you start focusing on yourself. And when I
Mhm,
say possible, what you're trying to pursue or what shift you're trying to make in your life. But you first have to look at yourself. Stop blaming the outside world, stop blaming your circumstances, stop blaming things that are not within your control, because that only steals your time
Yep.
and energy that you could have focused on influencing what you can control, right?
Mm.
Control the controllables, and then the rest will just happen anyway. So what you get out of life is not what happens to you, it's how you react to it.
Mm. I like that. I like that a lot. Very, very well said. Yeah. So if people want to find out more about you and what you got going on, content wise on your pages, where can they find you?
Yeah, Instagram's probably the best place. Matt Chenard. So just like my name down here, Mattchenard. I do have a YouTube channel, but it's more just fun for me right now. I post some ice bath videos. I post some fun stuff on there, but Instagram's definitely the place if you're looking for any more resources or content.
Awesome. Cool. So I'll definitely post Matt's links down below, like I always do. If you guys want to check out more of his stuff, you know where to find me. Obviously, I got all my channels, all my links down in the description. Like the video if you like it and enjoyed what we talked about here. Definitely go back and check it out a couple times. Rewatch this because there was a ton of stuff in there that we talked about. Um, a lot of gems, a lot of good nuggets of wisdom. So go watch this a couple times. Apply what we're talking about and comment down below what you learned. Tell me, like, let me know what it is that you took away from this. What was your big eye-opening moments? I always find that interesting when people describe what they take away from these videos. So yeah, feel free to join the community and get that discussion started. So also make sure to subscribe, hit that notification bell if you haven't done that yet. You know, that fun YouTube stuff. Um, I definitely want to have a consistent live stream pretty much every Saturday. I might actually end up moving it to Instagram. I'm not sure 100% because I have been, um, as you guys know, been more active on Instagram and TikTok lately. Haven't been posting as much on YouTube. It's dialed back a little bit, but every Saturday I'd like to have a guest and have someone jump on here. So I wanted to have a huge thank you to Matt for hopping on the channel here to having an awesome discussion with me. I appreciate you, man, and hopefully get you on the next one sometime.
Appreciate you, Tino. Thank you for having me on. That was great.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we're gonna be out of here. Have a good week. We'll see you soon. Peace.